go. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, depends on where you are. Well, not quite afternoon for everyone, but yeah, now it is. We're so excited to have you guys here today. If you are new, my name is Leslie, and I'm usually here on all of the webinars. With me is the one and only Dr. Scott Saunders, and we are on episode 93 today, which is amazing, talking about type 2, answering all of your questions, and we always have really good topics. We save these on YouTube, so make sure you check those out. So again, so excited to have you. I'm gonna invite Cheryl, who some of you have become familiar with. She's gonna hop on here as well today. So I'm gonna quick do that if I can find her. Let's see here. Dr. Saunders, would you mind giving us a disclaimer before we get started?
Okay. You know that everything we talk about here is for general information. So even when you're asking a specific question, I try to make it generally applicable to everyone. But if I can't answer a specific question, I will. However, remember that I'm not your doctor. I don't have your full history, your full physical. I don't know everything that's going on. And so working with your professional health professional is really a better idea before implementing certain things. Does this apply to me? So make sure you apply it properly to yourself, any information that you find.
Good. Welcome, Cheryl. Glad to have you here with us.
Hello, all.
She looks so cute.
Yay. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Dr. Scott. How are you?
Good.
Cheryl, tell us what your role is with Barton Publishing, because it seems like you kind of do all of the things, but I don't know if we've ever talked about all of the things that you do.
I think we've mentioned it. So I do put together the Home Cures That Work articles every month. So that's part of what I do. And then I oversee all the customer service for Barton Publishing. So there's an email team and then a phone team. So I work with all of them. And if you email me, I will try to answer at support@bartonpublishing.com.
Awesome. And she stays very busy doing that.
Very busy. It's a lot of work, man.
It's a lot of work. I filled in every once in a while and I was like, I don't know how you guys are able to do this. That's why she has an entire team.
Efficiency is what's the name of the game.
Yes. All right. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about type 2. Post your questions. If you're watching on Facebook, post them there. We'll get to them we'll try to do as many as we can. And then if you are on the Zoom webinar, go ahead and post your questions in the Q&A. As always, again, these are recorded. If you go to bartonwebinar.com, you can see a link to our YouTube channel and search all 93 of these episodes. So lots of good information. And it's crazy. I mean, 93 episodes. We've been here for a long time.
That is a lot of very good information.
It is. I mean, we even went through quarantine doing episodes. So, I mean, you've seen our weight fluctuate.
I know we've had to do them on Zoom.
No, just
yeah.
It's been good. It's been really good. So I'm going to hand this over to Dr. Saunders. This is what he researches and does, works with patients every day concerning type 2. So he's kind of the man in this category. And so I'm just excited to learn from you today. So take it away, Dr. Scott.
Okay. So I want to tell a story about a patient that I had yesterday. She is 68 years old and she has had diabetes for 12 years. For the last 5 years, she's been on insulin. And for the last 5 years, she has not been able to control her diabetes. It's been like uncontrollable. Either she's 400 or 500, or she's 40. If she gives too much insulin, she's way down, too low. And then if she doesn't give enough insulin, she's way up too high, and she's just almost never in the middle anywhere. So we discussed this. What the heck is going on here? What could be possibly happening that she can't get a good normal number? She's not really overweight. She's maybe 20 pounds overweight, but not, obese by any means. And she's somewhat active. She's an active kind of person. She doesn't run marathons or anything, but she's not one to sit around, and she doesn't lay around. She's up doing stuff all day long. So it's not like inactivity. and her diet is a decent diet. You know, she's not killing it with candy and cake and pop and all that stuff. So the question then is, you know, why is this happening? And we discussed a little bit, and her friend was in the room with us, and her friend said, "Tell him about the stress." And I'm like, "Okay, tell me about the stress. What are you talking about?" Well, you know, 5 years before, she got a divorce, and she has 6 children. One of them died of leukemia, and she has, you know, 5 other children. 2 of them are grown out of the house. She has a couple of teenagers in the house, and then 1 younger child. And now she is had to move out of her apartment. So there's a lot going on in her life. And what we started talking about is that she runs and runs all day long to avoid having to think about all the stress in her life. She avoids it in a lot of different ways. She's a cook, and she's a private chef. So she goes to people's houses and she cooks. She brings the kids with them, you know, a couple of kids or whatever with them, with her, while she's working. And then she takes them places, and so she's always got, you know, 3 or 4 things going on at the same time, and that keeps her really busy. And she's never never dealt with the reality of all of the problems, all the stressors that she's had in her life. From the time 5 years ago when she went through the divorce, she has had uncontrollable blood sugar. Before that, she had type 2, she had gestational diabetes, but it was manageable. So then it was uncontrollable at the point at which she, after her or during the divorce and all that. And then her children, and one of her children dying of cancer, leukemia, and she never dealt with that, never mourned the loss of her own child. I was too busy. I had another child to take care of. So, you know, boom, I have a baby still. So it was just one thing after another to keep herself busy, to avoid having to deal with the losses in her life, the mourning, the real issues. So the effect that has on blood sugar and blood pressure, by the way, at the same time, her blood pressure shot up and is not controllable. And they've tried to give her medications, and this one doesn't work, and she has side effects from that one. So she came in with half of her face was swollen and red. And it was swollen and red because the allergies. So anyway, so we were able to discuss that, the allergies are the stress in her life, and how important that is in managing your diabetes. Like, you can get the insulin perfect and you can get all the diet perfect and everything, but if you have a lot of stress, then it's not going to work very well. You still have to deal with stress. If we were to look at all of the effects of stress on the body, on health of the body, and compare it to everything else, all the chemistry, all the vitamins, and all the shots, and all the vaccines, and all the drugs, and we were to put all those things together, they amount to about 10% of what stress does. So that's how huge stress is, and that's really, it's a big deal, guys. So that's something really important to think about. If you're having trouble managing your blood sugar, stress causes a release of adrenal hormones, and those adrenal hormones make you insulin resistant. They don't allow you to use insulin, or they don't allow the insulin to work, so you can't bring energy into your cells. So at the same time, your blood sugar is really high. You got tons of energy. You can't use any of it. It's like useless. So you have fatigue and weakness, and your brain doesn't work right, and you can't sleep well, and all these issues are happening. And you can try to work the chemistry and try to make your chemicals all align and everything, but that's not the issue. The issue is often stress. There's something that's becoming more accepted by the psychology community, and that is something called PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. It used to be a diagnosis of war veterans. So people coming back from World War II. And, you know, if you've seen the terrors of war and how awful that is, then 20% of soldiers coming back from the war would have these nightmares and flashbacks, and they didn't want to go to sleep at night because they were going to have another nightmare. And so then they go crazy because they're not sleeping and they have these issues. It's the stress. Stress is a huge problem. And people often try to distract themselves by doing a lot of things, or they'll start eating. And the eating is a way of comforting. And so people get really big. And then they have diabetes just because they're having this PTSD, post-traumatic stress. It's not just soldiers. People who are normal people that were raised in families that, you know, well, all of us have issues, but you can have two people in the same situation, and one of them gets PTSD and the other one does not. Why not? Because the other one doesn't feel like they were in danger in any way. And so they gave examples of two people in the same hurricane. One of them sees the windows being blasted, and then the other one's upstairs asleep. And the one that was asleep goes, you know, it was nothing. We just passed through it like usual. Had to replace a couple windows, big deal. And the other one has PTSD, like, oh no, the house is going to collapse any moment. We're going to all die. And then has chronic stress from that. Two people in the same car accident, you know, boom, it's a minor accident. There's minor injuries, but it's a shock. And one of them gets post-traumatic stress disorder from that, and the other one does not. Why not? Because one of them was like, oh, it wasn't a big deal. But one of them, you know, saw my life flash before my eyes, so to speak. Or sometimes the death of a loved one. You know, if your parent dies or something like that, then two children, one of them's like, well, you know, mom lived a good life, and the other one's like, oh my gosh, they see their mortality for the first time and it becomes PTSD. So these are stressors, and it's sometimes in many people equivalent to a war veteran who's, you know, had the shock of killing people or almost being killed, or, you know, seeing their friends killed and all that stuff. And those kinds of things happen if you're ever like in a fire or an earthquake. I was in the Northridge earthquake in 1994. I was like right in the middle of it, and I was working at Northridge Hospital, and I went to the hospital, and all the doctors split. They went off. They got to take care of their houses, right? And all their patients are left with nobody. So it's just us. Like, we had 3 residents that showed up in the hospital. We had to run the entire hospital, and we're down in the ER stitching people up because of all the injuries and stuff. And a nurse comes in and says, what number are you doing? I'm doing number 3. What number are you doing? Number 2. She goes, step it up, guys. We're giving numbers out into the 80s in the parking lot. So you guys are going really slow, because we were being really careful, you know, swabbing everything off and draping and then stitching carefully and making it. So we ran upstairs to the operating rooms and got those staplers. Like, they were, the operating room was just covered. Everything had fallen on the floor, and it was like 2 feet deep. So we're fishing through all this stuff. We finally find the staplers, a whole bunch of them. We just grabbed armfuls of staplers and brought them down. And we just dip them in iodine and go click, 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 close the wound, say, okay, next, come in, wipe it off, dip it in iodine, click, click, click. Okay, get out of here. Next. We were just going through. we did all 80 of them. In fact, there was over 100 by the time we were done. But a lot of those people were in situations where they had PTSD while other ones did not, because you know what happened at 4 o'clock in the morning and most people were asleep and didn't even know it was going on. So, but some people saw their life flash before their eyes, and they have post-traumatic stress from that. So all those kind of stressors, people who've been kidnapped or raped or tortured or all of those kind of things, all these stressors that people have in life can produce chronic stress. And the way to not have that affect your diabetes specifically is to deal with it, to actually mourn the losses that you've had and go through the process. And, you know, there is a stepwise process, and very often you need help with that, and acknowledging and recognizing that you need help and saying, okay, I need help, and finding a counselor who can work with PTSD. Not all of them do. Some of them are well trained in it and they know what to do, because not just talk therapy doesn't seem to work. Just telling everybody about how traumatized you were doesn't relieve or get rid of that or integrate it, really is what they're trying to do. But there are other means that can be done to integrate it, and everybody's different. So that's why you work with an individual counselor who's well versed in all the different ways and going, I think this, you know, family therapy is going to work better for you. Oh, I think this EMDR is going to work better for you. There are different ways of doing it. So deal with your stress. That's huge. And when you have type 2 and your blood sugars are out of control and you're like, dang, my diet's good and I'm doing everything right and I'm giving myself insulin and I still can't get the blood sugar under control. Look to that as a possibility, because it's fairly common. And if you're eating excessively and saying, well, I'm really having trouble controlling my diet, that's another sign of a chronic stress issue. So those are things to really look at and get help with.
This is really good information, and we're getting some comments in here too from people who are relating to this. I think Meg had said this PTSD was exactly what caused her father's diabetes, and it was just a horrific war episode that only lasted 48 hours, but he got all of his men out and they were able to tie it back to his diabetes, back to that, which is amazing. And then I think Meg had also said her diabetes started 3 years after her dad died and 4 years after my husband had open heart surgery. And I am seeing this even more, you know, sometimes we don't even know what is troubling us. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's kind of like peeling back layers of an onion. You go through this process. And so, I guess I would even encourage some of you to spend some time, even with yourself, for a little bit, thinking through some things that you're doing, some things that have happened to you. And I would assume that when you're meeting with your patients, Dr. Saunders, that you do start some of those questions with them, things that have happened or that are going on in their lives.
Sometimes I do, but you know what? I will admit the patient I saw yesterday, if it wasn't for the friend being there and saying, tell them about the stress. Yes. I may not have gotten to that, which is probably the most important thing to do. So, it wasn't me, but you know what? I'm going to be more careful from now on and ask.
Well, and it seems
it's a big deal.
And people talk about stress eating and like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to have a bunch of cookies, or stress drinking. And it seems to be commonly accepted that's just the way you cope with it. So that's just that. So it's like a write-off to not deal with it. Mm-hmm. But we should be looking inside. And even I have to agree that family members, sometimes having 2 kids in one family with no trauma, one can still have PTSD, just their interpretation of how they were treated by their parents, by the lack of things that have happened in their family, not just two things that have happened to them, but sometimes it's the lack of affection, lack of love that can cause PTSD, so to speak. And I was going to ask you, I guess, would you say that some of these things get stuck in our body and then it comes out as diabetes or other things?
Yeah. It can come out as all kinds of things. When people come to me with like back pain, back pain is the body. It's actually sort of the brain. It's pain in the body that comes from a lack of support. I'm not getting support. I need support, and I don't have any help here. That's where back pain comes from. So the body manifests in a lot of different ways the stresses that we have, and will actually kind of tell us specifically what the problems are. So when I have people come with shoulder pain, shoulder is a loss. And if it's right shoulder, it's a loss of power, or a loss of manliness or power of men or something. And if it's a left shoulder, then it's a loss of support or feminine something. And you know what? I have had that work so many times when people come in with the shoulder pain. I have a rotator cuff tear. Well, before you do surgery, let's look at this. And then I just had somebody call me yesterday, and she said, it's only been 3 weeks after over a year of shoulder pain with a rotator cuff tear. I'm going to have to go to surgery. She said in only 3 weeks, her pain isn't 100% better, but it's mostly better. When she started looking at what are my losses, what are the issues. And then when you have this stress, diabetes is big. I mean, this is something, if you're resistant to insulin and you're constantly having this cortisol making you more and more resistant to insulin. I've had people with their insulin levels over 100. Normal is around 5. High is over 10. And I've had people in the hundreds because of that stress response. So yeah, the body will make that cause it.
Yeah, I've been really amazed lately. I'm going through physical therapy for my knee, and one of the things he had me do the last time was I had two Runner's World magazines. He wanted me to go through and circle every single picture of a healthy left knee, because that's where I had surgery, so that I'm mentally seeing healthy knees and processing that. And I think it's working. I'm just
smart.
I'm just amazed at, that's why it's so nice to get help, to have somebody else help you to take care of the things that you would never think of. I would never have thought to do that. People are specialized in their industries. Find someone who knows what they're doing. Like Dr. Saunders. I mean, we use him constantly for things.
That doesn't mean I always know what I'm doing.
Well, but you know what? I think the wisdom in someone who is, because you're full of wisdom, if you don't know the answer, you direct us to someone who does, and that's part of it too. So yeah. Anyway.
So for example, what I was talking about, there's a book about stress called The Body Keeps the Score. The psychiatrist that wrote it is Van der Kolk, and Bessel van der Kolk. And he did a lot of research on war veterans. And then when he got out of the VA system, he started doing this research on regular people. He's like, oh my gosh, it's common. Like a lot of people in the world have stress. They're dealing with this PTSD issues. And a lot of the illnesses that we see in the world, like arthritis and lupus and pain all over, all kinds of pain, rotator cuff tears and knee problems and all that, have to do with stress. Diabetes is a big one too. So and the book is great, by the way. It tells you, that's just the title, The Body Keeps the Score, and it does.
It's good.
I wrote a book or an article about a book that's called It's Not Your Fault, I think. And it was basically talking about how we put so much pressure on ourselves when things go wrong. And this guy, I don't remember exactly what happened to him. I don't know if he had dealing with cancer or he was recovering from a car accident and couldn't get well. And he's like, I'm going to be on a mission to heal. So he went to like gurus across the world, and everyone said, go talk to your mom. And he's like, what? So he went and he talked to his mom. He reconciled with his mom, and all of his physical problems disappeared. And so he was saying
Yeah.
sometimes it's not just you, your fault that something's gone wrong. It's having to deal with other stressors and other people in your life.
Right. And go talk to your mom's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Instead of laying on the psychiatrist's couch saying, it was my mother's fault. She did it all to me.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. This
That's
is good.
good.
We have a lot of questions that have been coming.
Let's do it. Let's do the questions.
All right. I'm going to post this here on Facebook. Again, guys, you can go to bartonwebinar.com to find out more information about these webinars, the links to the past webinars, our supplements, etc. Let's see. All right.
I'll read one. Meg has talked about the Bach flower remedies or the Bach rescue remedy. She's saying that this fellow talks about a German naturopath who've written books about this and where areas and problems can come. But I've read that sometimes hips mean you're not moving forward in life. You're afraid of actually taking the next step in life. But have you heard about the Bach method, the Bach rescue?
Yeah. Bach flower remedies are available just about anywhere. Wherever they sell vitamins and herbs, you'll often find those. And there are homeopathic flower remedies that are used for various things. And you can actually get a whole book on which remedies to use for what kinds of issues. And I've had people tell me they work really well. I'm not a homeopathic doctor, so I'm not really familiar with exactly what they are, but I know there's a book and I've seen it, and I've had people tell me they work well.
It's awesome. I have a friend who's really into the, I think it's the homeopathic type stuff, but she has like this huge kit and all these little, almost like supplement containers with little tiny things in it. It's so cool. I really want it, even though I don't know how to use it. I don't know. It seems like it'd be helpful. She loves it. It has like arnica and all of those kind of things. Is that what that is? Is it homeopathic? Anybody know?
Arnica? No. Arnica is a real herb. You're actually taking the chemistry of the herb arnica actually works too.
Okay. It's cute. I shouldn't say it's just cute. She uses it for a lot of different things. And so I should ask her what it's called.
You talked to me about that before, Leslie.
Oh, I did.
I don't remember what you said. You came back and told me what it was, but I don't remember exactly either.
Funny. Okay. Yeah.
You must. This is the second or third time you've mentioned it.
I better check it out. That's my sign. Okay. I'll find out what it is.
Hello. Okay. Today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by Easy Relief Magnesium Spray. Now, this is fast absorbing magnesium that is a topical spray that you spray on your skin. And it is vital for over 300 functions in your body. Now, the nice thing about this magnesium is, first of all, you don't have to ingest it, so you can't take too much of this. Your skin is great at absorbing only what it needs. So you spray about 30 to 50 sprays of this per day, and I personally do it 2 to 3 times a day of 10 to 15 sprays, and I do it on my chest and my legs typically. And this is going to correct the deficiencies that most people have. Now, how do you know if you need magnesium? Usually the symptoms are you have muscle cramps, trouble sleeping, if you're fatigued, if you have erratic blood sugar, if you experience any type of numbness or tingling, or if you feel down in the dumps or feeling blue. Now, those are all different types of symptoms that a lot of times magnesium can help with. So highly recommend this product of Easy Relief Magnesium. It is super easy. You spray it on. You don't have to take a pill or anything like that, and you don't have to worry about absorbing too much. This absorbs quickly. Now, this will get into your body in less than 2 minutes, into the bloodstream and circulating through. So it's a lot faster than if you take a pill with magnesium in it. So it's super important for metabolism, metabolic function. If you have insulin resistance, magnesium will probably help with that. There's a connection between low magnesium and insulin resistance. It's great for relaxation and sore muscle relief. It helps you sleep. Great for muscle cramps and achy joints. There's no sticky residue. So a lot of times if you find a different magnesium spray, it's not bonded with water like this process has done. So this doesn't leave a sticky residue at all. So it's great. It doesn't sting. It improves your mood. And there's just all sorts of different, again, there's 300 different functions that magnesium is used in the body. Highly recommend it. It's 365-day guarantee, just like anything. You can get it at bartonnutrition.com. And if you want to save 25% in addition to our already discounted prices, use this coupon code webinar25 as a coupon code. Again, that's at bartonnutrition.com, and Easy Relief Magnesium. Highly recommend it. Dr. Saunders approved. It's all natural and safe. Get yours today. All right, thanks. Now back to the webinar.
Okay, I love this. So Andy said, I want to share my story. I've been on the product for 3.5 weeks, down 16 pounds with an average fasting score of 75 and ranging between 110 and 130 during the day. I seldom got below 150 4 weeks ago, with most recording being around 180 to 230. Thank you so much. Food is great. Stick with it.
Wow, good work. 3.5 weeks. That's awesome. That's amazing. Good work.
That is, yes. Keep sharing those stories with us, guys. We love to hear how you're doing. Scott says, hello, Scott. You've been on a few times. Scott Lutheran. Doctor, I had mentioned previously about my constipation. I was listening to a nurse that advised drinking salt water. The only problem, she didn't give specifics. How much salt in an 8-ounce glass? What do you think? And do you know how much salt to add to an 8-ounce glass? Thank you.
Yeah, the general rule is about a half a teaspoon, or about a teaspoon per 8-ounce glass. Yeah. A half a teaspoon per 8-ounce glass is what's called normal saline. And that means that's standard of about what your blood normally is. And then for a hypertonic solution is about a teaspoon of salt per 8-ounce glass. And that makes it a hypertonic. And what that does is replenish all the salt so that you're not as dehydrated. So remember, there's 3 different kinds of dehydration. And one is a lack of water. Some people just don't have enough water. Another one is a lack of sodium, because sodium maintains the blood in our blood vessels. And then the other one is the lack of potassium, because potassium maintains the water in our cells. So if you don't have enough potassium, then you can have cellular dehydration, and you can drink all the water you want. It's not going to work because you don't have any potassium in your cells. So that's kind of what they're talking about with the salt water. If you're lacking sodium, then you can be dehydrated no matter how much water you drink, because you'll just pee out all the water and deplete your sodium even more. So if you add the salt water when you're constipated, that will replenish the supply in your blood, so that you have enough water in your blood and you won't be sucking out extra water from your colon, and you'll have more normal stool. That's the idea. And that may work if that's the issue. If it's not dehydration, it's not going to work. But yeah, that's a good thought.
Okay, speaking of constipation, we have someone who asks, I've been on the program for about 3 weeks now. So question is, does your supplements make your stool really dark? And I don't know which supplement she's taking. I'm guessing at least Synachroma.
Okay, but any of them, we don't have that many. There's one that might, and that's the healthy gut support has enzymes and probiotics and prebiotics that may change the stool somewhat. The other ones, I don't think would normally. I mean, I've taken Synachroma and it didn't affect mine at all, so I don't know. And then consider other things. What makes the stool dark? If you've taken anything like Pepto-Bismol, makes black stools, very dark stools. And then what you're eating can change the color of the stools. And then what's coming out of your liver can change the color of the stools. So If you're taking healthy gut support, it's possible, but the other ones are unlikely.
Okay.
I would think.
So sometimes when I've gone to the chiropractor, he would say, we got to get your colon emptied before we can work on anything else, if you're backed up or something like that. One of the things that he had recommended a couple times was even to drink a bottle of magnesium citrate that you can get for like a couple dollars at a store. How do you feel about that?
Well, magnesium citrate is a good laxative. It actually works really well, and I prefer it to most of the other ones because if you want to clean out your colon, that's not a bad way. I don't know. I think fasting periodically is the best way to keep your intestinal lining clean, and then eating a whole lot of fiber. We had a whole talk one time on fiber. One of our webinars was on we talked about fiber and how important a high fiber diet is. So, and that's what that does is keeps the good bacteria growing in your intestines, which is really the ideal thing to do. And I don't know, I've had people who have to do periodic cleansing of their colon or they do colon irrigation, and they say that works really well for them. So
I'm just thinking for Scott, if he's, in a desperate kind of situation where he's like, okay, I haven't gone in a while. I'm just thinking that could be an option. So.
Oh yeah, that would be an option for occasional use only.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to use that every day. Plus, you'd never be able to leave the house probably. But.
Do it on the weekend.
Yes. All right. Let's see. Kathleen says, I've switched to a whole foods green diet. I've lost over 30 pounds. When should I be able to get off metformin? My A1C went down to 6.2. I'm 66 and have been managing diabetes. Just wondering how much weight I need to lose. The meds. I'm exercising 3 days a week, cut out all sugar and diet pop.
Okay. Good for you. That's really good work. Okay. This is actually an important question because this comes up frequently, and I'm glad you asked. So the numbers you're looking for, the hemoglobin A1C is a good one to look at. And if you're around below 5.4, then you can go into phase 2 really easily. Another way to look at it is your fasting blood sugar. If your fasting blood glucose is between 70 and 90, or between 4 and 5 if you're in Canada, those numbers, if that's sort of consistent, like every day it's between 70 and 90 for a week or two, then you could say, okay, I'm easily able to move into the phase 2 of the program.
Awesome. But talk to your doctor about getting off metformin, because that's what she wants, is to get off metformin, to keep track of all that, and then tell your doctor, look at how great I am doing.
Yeah.
All right. Question from Meg. What do you think about bergamot citrus extract? It says only the Calabria, Italy grown fruits. How do you feel about it helping with cardiac and blood sugar health, as well as being liver protective and helping with obesity? The science on only the Italian fruits looks very promising. Familiar with that?
Bergamot's been around for a while. It's been used for lowering cholesterol and keeping the liver working well, cleaning out the liver. And it's an extract from the peels, I think, from and I wasn't aware of the research that the Italian fruits work and other fruits don't. But it is a citrus extract, and I've seen it. I've seen the research on it. It's okay. But here's part of I think for general information. If you can do it with your diet, you're better off. That's the ultimate way to do it. So if you're eating a high fiber diet and your cholesterol gets down to normal, you're cleaning out your liver because you have the high fiber diet, you're getting rid of the extra bile acids, for example, and toxins. that's fine. That's fine too. Some people may need a little extra help with bergamot. But I used to stock it in my office 10 years ago. I haven't had it for a long time, just because it sat there for a long time because I had people do it with their diet instead.
Okay. Mike says, good afternoon. I had one plant-based protein shake last night after dinner at 8 p.m. Contains 0 sugar with unsweetened soy milk. And he also had 1 large strawberry. Why was my blood sugar test on my meter 150 at 11:30 p.m.? No additional snacks. Thank you and God bless.
Okay. Okay. The blood sugar is multifactorial. There is a ton of different factors that go into what your blood sugar is going to be. So insulin, causes the blood sugar to go down as the sugar in the cells increases, right? But as the insulin drops down because you haven't had any sugar or anything to stimulate insulin drops down, glucagon goes up, and glucagon tells your liver make more sugar. So then your liver starts putting out this extra blood sugar, and you say, I haven't eaten anything. My blood sugar's high. Yeah, that's all coming from your liver because that's the balance. Your body has to keep a standard of sugar because there's a lot of cells in your body. There's billions of cells in your body that cannot function without blood sugar. They need a constant supply because they store none. So your muscle cells store sugar, and most of the skin cells and cells in your body, they store. So they get glycogen in them, for example, or they have extra sugar in them, or they can use fat. But there are certain cells in your body that can't do that. So kidney cells, heart cells, brain cells, nerve cells, they need a constant supply. So your body's going, I need this much, and it's getting too low. So release glucagon. Glucagon gets released, and your liver just dumps sugar into your body. That's one possibility of what might be going on. The other part of it is you could be making that protein into sugar. The body can actually take certain amino acids, and make them into sugar that you can use. It's called gluconeogenesis. Kind of a fun term.
Very interesting.
All right, I'll read one.
Yeah.
Good morning. This is from Caro. Maybe Carol. It's Caro. Can you explain the nightshade vegetables as toxic versus nutritious tomato, eggplant, peppers, etc.?
Okay. The nightshades have a certain chemical in them. And this has been known for hundreds of years. When tomatoes were first brought to Europe from the New World, from South America, really, they ate the leaves, and they found out they were really toxic. And they said, "Don't ever eat that fruit. That's horrible." Thomas Jefferson was actually one of the first people in the United States to have tomatoes on his table and serve them to his guests. And people would go in, "Are you sure we can eat these?" He's like, "Yeah, you can eat them. They're good." Because they have this solanine. It's a toxin, and it's common in nightshades. Nightshades have it. There's other places you can get it, and it is a type of lectin that's quite toxic. But most people tolerate it pretty well and don't have any issues with it. Some people are really sensitive to it, and it's kind of like being gluten sensitive, right? Some people with nightshades, especially like the potatoes, if they have green under the skin, if they start to turn green, that they produce a lot of solanine. And so potatoes are actually quite toxic if they're green around them. And you have to peel all that off, or it's better just not to eat them at all. And the leaves, right, that contain all those lectins. So all of the nightshades: tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, eggplant, and tobacco. So people who smoke or use tobacco, if they get sensitive to solanine, then they have to quit.
How do you know if you're sensitive to that? What would be some of the symptoms?
Okay, the elimination diet is the best way. I had a woman come in. She had terrible arthritis. She was like, and just in pain all the time. Her knees were bent. She could barely walk, and she was really miserable. And so we went through. We did all of the tests on her, whether inflammatory tests, all these tests. And one of the tests showed that she had a reaction to nightshades. And I'm like, okay, so let's do the elimination diet. And she eliminated a lot of different lectins and nuts and seeds and certain vegetables and fruits. And of course, all the nightshades, no more tomatoes, potatoes. And she got better. She's like, her fingers weren't normal, but she could move them. And she was just feeling a lot better. And then she had something that she didn't know had tomatoes in it. It was a soup that was a tomato base, but it wasn't like tomato soup, but it had a tomato base in it. And all of her symptoms came back, and she said, every time I touch a tomato, it all comes back. So I know that's the toxin that's affecting my circulation and arthritis.
Many years ago, I was having a lot of stomach issues, and you had recommended that I did. Well, I think you wanted me to do an elimination diet, and I said, I'm too lazy. Can I just get tested? You can tell me what I'm allergic to. I did both. I was desperate at that time. But anyway, at that, I'm thinking about this, and I'm remembering that during that time, even while I was waiting for the results from that, I would crave tomatoes or pasta sauces or anything like that. And I did find that I had a nightshade allergy. And so I'm curious if that happens much, if you find that people who are craving things, if that's often something that they're sensitive to.
Mm-hmm.
I have found that with milk, especially. Milk is very common. People who say, I really like my milk. Then that's what you got to stop. Or I really need my wine every night. Well, then get off that. Or wheat. People who are gluten sensitive will often crave wheat. I just need some bread or some pasta or something. Yep, I've seen it. It does
Very
happen.
Interesting.
What about chocolate?
I don't know.
Hey, they say that's a magnesium deficiency if you're craving chocolate. I don't know who they is, but I've heard that.
Right.
I've heard that too. I don't know if that's true.
Oh, this is good. Okay, let's see. Here's a note from Karen. I'm having abdominal pain, so I stopped the turmeric. I have a history of ulcer. What can I do to help the stomach?
Oh, well, it depends on what the reason is. Ginger tea is often very helpful. Licorice, in fact, you can get a licorice ginger, especially if you get fresh ginger and you grate it into the water and then take licorice root and put it in. It makes a really great tasting tea that just soothes the stomach really well. But if you're having like acid reflux or some other kind of issue, like I had someone that had a histamine intolerance, and nothing would cure the stomach ulcers until he started taking an enzyme called DAO. It's a digestive enzyme. It's kind of hard to find, but it gets rid of histamine, because histamine tells the stomach to make more stomach acid. So if you have like allergies or eating high histamine foods, or you're missing the enzyme DAO, which we normally make, then it's pretty easy to get ulcers. In that case, just soothing it with something like licorice or ginger tea. There's something else called DGL, deglycyrrhizated licorice, and there are lozenges that you can suck on, and that'll often help. But finding the cause is probably the most important thing. If you find the root cause and you know what it is, then you know exactly what to do about it.
This is good. Okay, guys, I have a note from Kevin on the Barton team. I'm going to post it in here if I can do that, but I got to read it right off my phone because he said I need to read this today. It's an important announcement. So we are doing a giveaway for the month of June. We are giving away a $100 We're giving away $100 gift certificates for Barton Nutrition supplements to 3 lucky winners who will be chosen at the end of the month. To enter, you go to bartonpublishing.com/win. And the great thing is that you can come back to the page every day this month to earn more entries. We just started the competition and there aren't a lot of entries so far. So now's your chance to get a head start. So I'm going to go ahead and post that here in the comments so that you can be sure to do that. Okay. So breaking news, had to quick mention that.
All you got to do is enter bartonpublishing.com/win for $100 Barton Nutrition gift cards or credit. So that's where our supplements are. So you could win $100 worth of Cinechroma, $100 worth of turmeric. Good deal.
Be awesome.
Yeah.
That's a really good deal. So
Barton
go for it, you guys.
Employees excluded.
Probably.
What?
Okay, so I'm going to post that in here in just 1 second. I'll go to the next question here. Paul says, I've been on the diabetes solution protocol for 5 months. I have had type 2 for over 20 years. My A1C has been up and down over the years. The latest was 6.8. My doctor has allowed me to discontinue taking metformin about 6 weeks ago. I exercise regularly. My blood glucose readings were improving a few weeks ago, but lately they've seemed to go back up, 160 to 180 fasting readings. What can I start doing differently so that I can start getting better blood sugar glucose readings? Wow,
that's a great segue into our type 2 talk today on stress. Look at all of the different ways that blood sugar can be elevated. So we talked about stress today. So look at stress in your life. If you're having more stress, you're going to be more insulin resistant and your blood sugar is going to be higher. So that's one thing to consider. Another thing to consider would be fat in your diet. Some people are really sensitive to fat, and fat does block sugar from getting into the muscles. So you're exercising regularly, but the muscles may have to use fat for energy because if they can't get sugar in, and then your blood sugar is going to be higher because the fat blocks the sugar from getting in there. So it makes you insulin resistant. So maybe you're eating more fat, even though you're not eating sugar, maybe that. So look into that. Also look at the carbohydrates you're eating, and there might be hidden carbohydrates, things that you don't expect. Things like if you have raw carrots, it's a very different carbohydrate content from a cooked carrot, for example. So there are various ways that carbs can be hidden in some ways. And look also at artificial sweeteners. If you're drinking drinks that have artificial sweeteners, some of them are 300 times sweeter than sugar, and they stimulate those sweet receptors a lot and can cause extra release of insulin, cause more insulin resistance as well. So those are some ideas that you might look into to see why your blood sugar might be going up.
And it might be worth mentioning too, one thing we haven't talked about in terms of stress is weather. So I have someone in my family member who's type 1, and being out in the heat can throw her blood sugar off. So now as the warm temperatures come, would that make a difference if someone's outside sweating too much?
Great.
Exerting too much energy and it's hot and humid, that can make a difference in their blood sugar.
Yeah, that's a great thought. I was talking about stress like PTSD stress, but any kind of stress causes the release of cortisol and makes you more resistant to insulin and causes blood sugar to go up. So you can have physical stress, like Cheryl was talking about the weather, if you're stressed from the weather, and that could be cold or hot, either way. You could have physical stress, working out, or have some other form of stress, carrying things around or whatever. Anything that causes you to release extra cortisol, adrenal hormones, any kind of stress will do it. It's not just the emotional stuff.
A heightened conversation with a boss or a coworker can cause a fluctuation. I mean, our bodies are so sensitive.
Yeah.
It's both good and troublesome sometimes. Yeah.
I know, right?
Okay, Robin says, if a person is type 1 and they get their blood sugar under control by taking Cinechroma, and diet right, can they eventually not have to take insulin?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so if you have type 1, and actually the woman that I started off talking about with the stress, she was told she had type 1, and we're testing her to be sure, because the next step is to say, you know, are you really type 1? Because we can what happened is she had DKA, but now we can test the pancreas to know if the pancreas is functioning at all. So we can look at insulin levels and C-peptide levels. So if you have type 1 and you think you might want to get off insulin, have your doctor send a test for insulin and C-peptide. That's C-peptide. Peptide means protein. And that C-peptide is the one that comes from the pancreas when the pancreas makes insulin. It's kind of a waste protein, but not really. It's actually used, but we used to consider it a waste protein. And so, but people who were injecting insulin, they won't have any C-peptide at all, because the insulin that's injected is just insulin, and it doesn't have the C-peptide with it. So and that's how you know that your pancreas is functioning or not. So having those two will be very helpful. And then if you have a positive C-peptide, if it's the over 1, for example, then you have a very good chance of being able to get off insulin.
Someone here had also asked if these supplements that we have recommended are beneficial for someone with type 1.
Yes, I think so. I've had patients that I've been that I put on these supplements, and it does help. And here's how it helps. When you're injecting insulin, you know, you never really know what you're doing. You do the best you can, and you get close and all of that. One of the things that the supplements do is they help manage glucose so that the insulin is more sensitive, so it works better. So you don't need like 200 units of insulin. You know, you're only using 10 or 20 units, or 8 or 9 or 10, somewhere in there. Where with type 1, whereas if you don't have the supplements, you may require a lot more insulin, have more insulin resistance. So it's easier to control. We've found it's easier to control the blood sugar when people are adequate in chromium, vanadium, selenium, vitamin D. That helps manage it well, so you don't get hypo or hyperglycemia.
That's good. Deborah is wondering if you could repeat what the A1C number should be to start phase 2.
Below 5.4. Below 5.4 is optimal. That's 5.0 is about an average blood sugar of 100. So over the last 3 months, your blood sugar is averaging about 100 at 5.0. 5.4 is about 110, 111, something like that. So that kind of gives you the range, and ideally your average blood sugar should be about 100.
Okay. We have a comment here. Let's see. They said, I just ate wheat bread with butter and my sugar went up. Is butter bad for me?
That is great. You know, I've been testing this. The butter causes you to be insulin resistant. The bread increases the sugar that breaks down into sugar. So now you've just eaten sugar, and you've made yourself insulin resistant. So you can't absorb it. You can't use it. So your blood sugar goes up with bread and butter. So the answer to your question is yes, but it's not just the butter, it's the combination of two. And so what I've been testing is this combination of fat, carbohydrate, not a good combination. So deep fried anything like French fries or chips of any kind, corn chips, potato chips, any of that, those are the worst kinds of things you could do, just like bread and butter, because you're eating a carbohydrate, sugar, with a fat, insulin resistance. So you're putting the two things together that are most likely to cause problems.
Okay. It's good. Okay, we're almost out of time. Let's see. Maybe one more question. Let's see. This is from Anonymous. I have very high numbers, was about 400 in April. Very low, very LC, very low carb diet, I'm assuming it says, only got to about 300. What else can I do to get the numbers down before she puts me on insulin? I take metformin and glipizide. Also have been very constipated, so much pain. Had a colonoscopy and it was good. Doctor says it's stress. Started taking Cinachroma along with 2000 metformin. I also take Nervala, turmeric, and lean ACV. I take the ACV first thing in the morning, followed by diarrhea. Is that normal? So lots of questions in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions in it. So I think the most pertinent one is the fact that the doctor told you it was stress.
Yes.
Because if you have stress, remember the chemistry, all those chemicals that you're taking of metformin and Nervala and all that stuff. Those are fine and they'll help a little bit, but that's 10%. The 90% is the stress. And so if you're constipated from stress, then your blood sugar is going to be up, and there's not a lot you can do about that until you lower the stress. I've seen several cases of this now where people are only diabetic when they're stressed, and when they're not stressed, they don't have diabetes anymore. It goes away completely. So I think that is the elephant in the middle of the room, doing that, and to get your blood sugars normal. But one other thing I might consider if I were you would be to ask your doctor to do that insulin and C-peptide test. Because before you get put on insulin, you should know how your pancreas is functioning. And if your pancreas is making insulin, then you know that it's either lower the stress, lower the carbs, lower the fat, because sometimes you may tolerate carbs and you have to get on a low-fat diet, a fat-free diet. So there are other ways of managing it if you know you have insulin, because just taking more insulin is not necessarily the answer, just because your blood sugar is high. If you know you have insulin, then you can fix it in all of the different ways that the Diabetes Reversal Program, Diabetes Solution Kit helps with. If you take that test and your insulin is low or you don't make any insulin, well, then you're kind of stuck with, you've got to have insulin. You may have to do injections.
I have a feeling, Dr. Saunders, there might be a future Home Cures That Work article on stress coming up, the popular topic. So if you think so, put a thumbs up in the chat. Because really, there are simple things you can do, just like breathing. Deep breaths right away can help calm the stress. Sometimes exercise is the remedy for stress. Sometimes it's the counseling, and sometimes it's that's a cure for stress. But give us a thumbs up if you think Dr. Saunders should write an article on stress.
Good. Okay, Dr. Saunders, we know you have patients to go see. So again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Hello. Okay, today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by Easy Relief Magnesium Spray. Now, this is fast absorbing magnesium that is a topical spray that you spray on your skin. And it is vital for over 300 functions in your body. Now, the nice thing about this magnesium is, first of all, you don't have to ingest it, so you can't take too much of this. Your skin is great at absorbing only what it needs. So you spray about 30 to 50 sprays of this per day, and I personally do it 2 to 3 times a day of 10 to 15 sprays, and I do it on my chest and my legs typically. And this is going to correct the deficiencies that most people have. Now, how do you know if you need magnesium? Usually the symptoms are you have muscle cramps, trouble sleeping, if you're fatigued, if you have erratic blood sugar, if you experience any type of numbness or tingling, or if you feel down in the dumps or feeling blue. Now, those are all different types of symptoms that a lot of times magnesium can help with. So Highly recommend this product of Easy Relief Magnesium. It is super easy. You spray it on. You don't have to take a pill or anything like that, and you don't have to worry about absorbing too much. This absorbs quickly. Now, this will get into your body in less than 2 minutes, into the bloodstream and circulating through. So it's a lot faster than if you take a pill with magnesium in it. So it's super important for metabolism, metabolic function. If you have insulin resistance, magnesium will probably help with that. There's a connection between low magnesium and insulin resistance. It's great for relaxation and sore muscle relief. It helps you sleep. Great for muscle cramps and achy joints. There's no sticky residue. So a lot of times if you find a different magnesium spray, it's not bonded with water like this process has done. So this doesn't leave a sticky residue at all. So it's great. It doesn't sting. It improves your mood. And there's just all sorts of different, again, there's 300 different functions that magnesium is used in the body. Highly recommend it. It's 365-day guarantee, just like anything. You can get it at bartonnutrition.com. And if you want to save 25% in addition to our already discounted prices, use this coupon code webinar25 as a coupon code. Again, that's at bartonnutrition.com and Easy Relief Magnesium. Highly recommend it. Dr. Saunders approved. It's all natural and safe. Get yours today. All right, thanks. Now back to the webinar.
Hi. And guys, we'll wait here for just a second to see if you give us any comments about stress, because, I mean, is there anybody who's not having stress in some way, shape, or form? I mean, it's really, even thinking about all of the different things that people deal with just in one day, it's amazing. So we already are getting some thumbs up. So looks like that might have to happen, Cheryl. Good. Okay, I think we just had a couple questions that we didn't get to. So feel free to message me and we can try to get those answered, or bring them next week. We will do our very best to get those answered with Dr. Saunders as well. So you guys, thanks so much for joining us today. Cheryl, great to have you as well. Thank you for taking time out of your already busy workday to do this. But this has been good. Again, HundaBartonWebinar.com. These are all recorded. Make sure you go to the YouTube channel from there and subscribe, so you'll get a notification anytime we upload one.
And enter to win, bartonpublishing.com/win.
Yes.
$100.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.